There is an estimated 2.5 million men, women, children who are victims of trafficking at any point of time. In recent years, the number of reported cases of trafficking in both men and women for the purpose of forced labor has increased. There are different forms of human trafficking: debt bondage, sex trafficking, forced labor. Two-thirds of a total of 36 million human trafficking victims come from Asia. Forced labor is common in rural areas. Trafficked humans work in unfavorable conditions in factories or sweatshops. Despite increased media attention, it's still a prevalent issue that has not been properly addressed.
Human trafficking and modern slavery.
Slavery is alive. Human trafficking is the evidence. It is a multi-million-dollar industry worldwide, and cases are increasing every day in the United States. Human trafficking is an epidemic. Below, you will see everything about trafficking in people in the world. Human trafficking is a modern slavery. It involves one person who controls and exploits another for her work. As historical slavery, human trafficking is a business that generates billions of dollars a year. As opposed to slavery, human trafficking is not legal anywhere in the world. Instead of being contained by law, victims are trapped physically, psychologically, financially, and emotionally by their traffickers.
Human trafficking does not discriminate on the basis of race, age, gender, or religion. Anyone can be a victim.
The majority of victims of human trafficking in the world are women below the age of 18, but men and other adults can be victims. While poverty, lack of education, and belonging to a marginalized group are factors that increase the risk of trafficking. The list of victims of modern slavery includes children from middle-class families, women with a professional qualification, and people from dominant religious and ethnic groups.
Wherever you live, whatever country it is, there is a chance that you will encounter some form of human trafficking. The stories of human trafficking are usually located in very distant places. Cities like Cambodia, small towns in Moldova, and rural parts of Brazil. But human trafficking also happens in small cities and towns around the world, including the United States. Enslaved farmers have been found growing tomatoes in Florida and picking strawberries in California. Young women have been found prostituted in Toledo, Atlanta, Wichita, Los Angeles, and other cities in the United States. Women have been enslaved as domestic workers in Maryland and New York, and victims of human trafficking have been found working in restaurants, hotels, beauty salons, and small town stores.
In the United States, the most common cases of human trafficking are sex trafficking and labor trafficking. Both are illegal. No labor must be forced.
Sex trafficking. People consider prostitution and trafficking as two different things, but most people who practice prostitution have experienced some type of trafficking. Most became involved in this before they were old enough to consent to having sex. regardless of whether they are sold for sex.
On the other hand, labor trafficking occurs in numerous industries in the US and globally. In the United States, common types of labor trafficking include people forced to work in homes as domestic servants, farm workers and courts through violence as they harvest crops, or factory workers held in inhuman conditions. Labor trafficking has also been reported in door-to-door sales crews, restaurants, construction works, carnivals, and even health and beauty service.
Sex and labor traffickers often make false promises of high-paying job or education or exciting travel opportunities to lure people into horrendous working conditions or force them to commit sexual acts. However, the victims discover that the reality of their jobs proves to be far different than promised and most often work long hours for little or no payment. They assure that they have no choice.
Faces of human trafficking.
My trafficker was my husband. There was no way I could reach out to anybody for help.
We're scared. We're scared to run. We're scared to tell anybody what's going on.
It was an incredibly violent situation. I felt like there was no way I could get out.
It was awful. The whole experience.
I was full-time babysitter and house cleaning, cooking. I wasn't getting paid. I was lied to, I was abused. I didn't know I was a victim of human trafficking until I told my story.
Many things happened when I was with my trafficker, but I will say that the worst was torture. Diane Osley.
She spent 2 years in a single room with a mattress on the floor with nothing to cover herself, and the man enters her room day after day and month after month. Most young people and also adults don't know distinguish between human trafficking, a crime against a person without crossing a border based on involuntary exploitation, and human trafficking, a crime committed when crossing a border voluntarily based on the transportation of people.
I have never been so scared and dishonored and humiliated in my life. I felt like garbage. Melissa. Melissa was sold to the sex trade by a family member when she was barely 12 years old. Her life became a prison. Chained to a bed in a warehouse, she endured beating on a regular basis, rapes, and on one occasion her captors set her on fire while she was forced to serve 5 to 30 men each day. The experience was enough for her to want to be dead. And all this happened in Texas. In fact, considering that the victims have an average age of only 13 years, these horrible crimes are stealing the innocent childhoods of children across the United States.
We should not meet people we met online on the street.
All the victims have a common denominator. One day they left home and meet the grown person. Some are captured in schools or university campuses, others in chat pages or that offer work on the internet. The modus operandi of traffickers is almost always the same. On students' campuses, they observe students who are always alone for long periods until they become friends of them. On the internet, everything starts in chat with an offer to come work in Miami, earn money in bars or canteen, in model agencies or trips, babysitters, in massages or stripper clubs.
When a stranger
gives the 100% of their attention, probably there is much more. You have to be aware. Instead of treating people like these young women as victims, they are often thrown into the criminal justice system, branded as prostitutes, and left with little choice but to return to a nightmare that surprisingly still exists in the United States. Meanwhile, instead of treating the perpetrators of these crimes as rapists of children and traffickers, they are often simply treated as Jones, who is caught often only pay a fine and go on their way.
Due to the prejudices of the society against prostitution, women trafficking has become a difficult problem to understand and resolve. We are arresting the victims instead of the traffickers and pimps. When you hear about prostitution, you think someone is making a decision that you have chosen voluntarily. Culturally, they have taught us to think like that. Even they think that they are guilty, but it is not like that. They are there coercion and by force.
Figures of trafficking in people in the world and Latin America.
Human trafficking is a transnational phenomenon that, from any point of view, is impressive because of the amount of money it handles, the negative impact it produces on people, and it increases in all countries. Know the figures of this problem and share with your family and friends after watching the following report.
Capturing, transporting, transferring, or receiving people using threat, the use of other forms of coercion. There are some of the actions that define the crime of trafficking in people, according to the United Nations. In addition to these facts, there are specific exploitation purposes to which 40 million people are subjected worldwide. A recent estimate by the International Organization for Migration. Like this one, there are many more figures that are alarming about the scourge of human trafficking.
Colombia is the third country most affected by this scourge in Latin America, positioning itself alongside Mexico and Brazil as one of the nations with the highest number of victims who are exploited both inside the country and abroad. The main international destinations are Spain, Dominican Republic, China, Japan, Chile, Ecuador, Mexico, Argentina, Panama, Paraguay, and the Arab Emirates, according to the data from the Attorney General's office. Specifically in Colombia, where 200 cases of trafficking in people between 2017 and 2018. 86% of the victims are girls and women. Regarding forced labor, the victims forced to work tirelessly are more and more men and boys, mainly transferred to countries in Asia and the Pacific.
Human trafficking is a transnational phenomenon in which anyone can be at risk. It is important to prevent these cases.
The numbers around human trafficking vary year after year. The number of victims also do so. It is imperative to communicate the reality and treat that iris crime represents in Latin America, North America, Europe, Asia, Africa, and Oceania. Helps to spread this information and create awareness about this modern scourge.
Reporting human trafficking is the way to fight against the network, penalize the member, reduce the number of victims, prevent more children, young people,